Shaking and Bacon YouTube. We're back. I asked in the comments if somebody wanted to see this Postless, and well, comments been pretty busy. So we're gonna take this brand spanking new 38. This one's mine. It's mine. And we're gonna build the Postless deck. We're gonna get up and close. Gotta build it first, but yeah, we got all that sorted. Put it on a little time lapse, and we'll catch back up when we get to the good stuff. All right, so we got our coils set. We're now going to acknowledge that we have a new build. We're also going to turn our wattage down all the way down to around 35. So our build that we installed, because we always like to talk about that, is a 2838 4-core N80 stag, 5 wrap, 5.5 mil, and we cut our legs to 4.5 millimeter. You can see at 4.5, you have that nice space underneath. That's what we're looking for. Nice symmetrical, clean install. And now we're going to fire them up. We're going to fire them up, and we're going to talk about it while we fire them up. Because some people have a tendency to just jump right in and start banging on them at really high wattage. And then they end up running into issues. Coil longevity, breaking, having the coil get a hot spot and then shearing off or breaking. So you always want to make sure you're starting out at low wattage. And if you're on a DNA, make sure you're on a profile setting that does not have boost turned on. You're not looking for any of that jazz. This should never be like a quick process. The only time it is when you're rocking a single coil like in a billet, just because there's really not a whole lot of mass there to mess around with. One of these coils alone would make a set of billet coils. So then you take 2 of them, and you can do the math. Ceramic tweezers, are they necessary? No, they're not. However, I can continuously apply power while strumming them and not create an arc. So that's why I use them. I don't want to say they speed up the install because it's not necessarily about how fast you can get it done. However, it allows you to do things that metal tweezers obviously can't. I want to snag a picture of that real quick because that's purdy. Okay, let's continue on. I like to rotate it around, have a look at both sides. Most of the time on Postless decks, you'll end up with a hot spot down here at the bottom. Now that we got what I feel our hot spots are worked out, we're going to go into our, yep. Yeah, we're going to try and remeasure our stuff here. If I can figure out how. There we go. Sorry. Alright, so we went from a 0.09 cold to now up to a 0.16. The reason I like to remeasure is, well, you get a much more accurate input of power to the build when it's reading the correct resistance. We went from 35 up to 75 watts. As you can see, we got more hot spots that came back. This is exactly what we're looking for. I like to ting on them a little bit with the tweezers, because a lot of times what happens is you think you got all the hot spots out and then you wick it up, and when you wick it, the disturbance of putting cotton through your coils causes hot spots. So I like to try and make them happen. So when I do wick it up, I know that it's ready to go. Okay, I got a feeling this probably isn't going to go up a whole lot more resistance wise, but let's see. Yeah, barely at all. Okay, now we're going to go up to 120 watts. Is there a set recipe to this? No. No, there's not. I'm just taking into account the diameter of the coil, the amount of material that's there, and going from there. That looks good. We're not going to remeasure because, well, she's good now. We're going to jump up to 170 watts. Notice we're only doing short pulses here. We're not getting white. We're just getting cherried up. Ideally, when you get done this, they're still going to have some blue to them. We're up to 220. Okay, let's go for the gusto. We're going to go up to 300. I don't foresee this build needing 300 watts to be enjoyed, but we're just going to spot check it. Okay, time to wick. Time to wick it up. We're gonna grab some cotton. Moji pads. Moji pads. Moji pads. So we got a 5.5 millimeter ID. We're gonna cut right about here. Do it again. There we go. So this is about the thickness that you're looking for. And if we put it on a tape measure, well, if we measure it out, it's at 5/8 of an inch. I'm gonna peel off our outer layers. Give it a little tug.
Hey, Dad. Thank you.
And you'll see we've got just enough resistance going through the coil. It doesn't just pull right through. There's some resistance there. That's what we're looking for. again, a little pull. All right, so now we get to the important part. Where do we cut it? How long do we cut it? So if we look underneath the cotton, you can see your juice well. It's quite deep. What we're aiming for is for that cotton to sit in the bottom of the juice well, right around where that O-ring is. So it's not sitting on the bottom, it's kind of floating in there. Too short, and well, that's a bad day. Too long, and well, that also is a bad day. So I basically go right against the O-ring with a pair of shears. And we're gonna just snip right through and eyeball it, get it set, and see how it looks from there. Hours ago. So we're gonna look at it, and honestly, the other side looks perfect. So let's fluff it out, and then we're gonna mess around with it. All right, so now we've got all this extra cotton. If you look down, you see the deck is this wide. Well, the posts are this wide, the deck is this wide. I typically will take a pair of shears and I will cut this excess off, because the wicking port is only as wide as where the coils get installed. So like so. So now we got this going on. We're gonna place it in there, see how it looks. I still think we're a little too long. A little too long, yep. So we're gonna basically aim for just above the O-ring. Nice thing is, if you only cut one side at a time, if you go too short, you can always pull it from the other side. So now if we take a look, you're gonna see now we're sitting at the O-ring. That's what we're after. Notice how I'm not having to pack the cotton in there. It has room because it's not getting jammed up on the bottom. So that means we've got to take some off this side. So you see how it's relatively long there. Ideally, we want to just kind of take cotton from the bottom. So if you come in like that, turn your scissors a little sideways, you end up cutting just the bottom of the cotton. And this should be perfect. Bingo. So, easy peasy. We cut right at the O-ring. So when our cotton was laid flat, it was right here at our O-ring. We snipped off of our sides parallel with this and simply just put them in there. Didn't pack them, didn't squish them. Had enough cotton to hopefully do what we want it to do. So now it's time to take it up top, fill her up, and take her for a rip. Alright guys, back up top. We're all filled up. I took a minute, swapped it over to tall, which I normally don't do. However, we are going out of town this weekend and I don't want to bring juice. So, we're in tall. Filled her up. I want to talk about the fill-up process on the 38 specifically. So, in the past, I have always closed the JFC, filled it up, opened the JFC, cap back on, yada yada, never had an issue. On the 38 specifically, if I do that on fresh wicks, it will flood and leak every single time. However, if you fill it with the JFC open on the first fill, you get no leaks. You get no nothing. It just does exactly what it's supposed to do. So, just got it set up. We're setting at 207 watts. Nice and cool. For me, anyways. But realistically, I'm going to say this needs to be around 260. Because there's a little latency. I don't like latency. That's more like it. And for those wondering, yes, quad-core stags do have some crackle. Not always, but. There you go. 38, postless wicking, and a little run, little shakedown. Build spec wise, again, 5.5 millimeter inner diameter fits perfectly. You could probably even go dual 6 if you wanted to. It's just not needed. It's full on overkill. When you look through the airflow, it's hard to see on here, but you can see the space underneath the coils, and then you can see the side of the coil. That, for me, is perfect. If you set them too high, you get too much airflow coming in and not enough flavor. If you set them where they're matched with the airflow, where you see half the coil, that's perfect. Because your airflow is coming in from the bottom and going up between the coils, and then it's also smacking the side of it, and it's coming up the sidewall. So, hope that helps. Peace.